Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to be working on the electron configuration of carbon atom. The first thing you have to do anytime you're given a electron configuration question is for you to determine the number of electrons for that atom. In this case, we have to determine the number of electrons in carbon. Now, before we go on to do that, we have to remember that for atoms, the number of proton of an atom is equal to the number of electrons. What this is saying is that if there are 100 protons in a particular atom, then there has to be 100 electrons in that particular atom. So the number is exact same. Now, from our knowledge of the periodic table, we know that atomic number of an atom always equals the number of protons, which therefore means that the atomic number of an atom is equal to the number of protons of an atom is also equal to the number of electrons of an atom. So that means if the atomic number of a particular atom is like 100, then the number of protons is 100 and then the number of electrons has to be 100. But since we're not dealing with just any atom, we're dealing with carbon atom, we have to check and see in our periodic table, and we see that the atomic number for carbon is 6. The number of protons for carbon has to be 6, and therefore the number of electrons of carbon is 6 because all three of the number are the same, or all three of the values are the same for atoms. So now that we've determined that, the next thing we have to do is to look at the energy orbital diagram. And the way this diagram works is that we're going to fill in the number of electrons from the lowest energy level to whenever we use up all of the electrons by filling two electrons each one into each one of those boxes. And this box is just basically an orbital. So we have an 1s orbital, we've got 2s orbital, 2p orbitals, and then on and then forth. But we're just going to fill 6 electrons because that's what we're trying to determine. So the first thing we do is we've got 6 electrons, we start filling from the bottom. We've got 1 electron, and then the second, because it's only 2 electrons per orbital, 2 electrons per box. And then we have 4 more. So we've got 3, we've got 4, we've got 5, and then we've got 6. So we filled up 6. One thing you need to know is whenever you're dealing with electron configuration questions, you always have to fill each one of the orbitals first because electrons are negatively charged and you cannot put 2 electrons too close to each other. Hence, we cannot put them in the same orbitals because electrons being negatively charged, like charges repel each other. So the electrons will repel each other to avoid energy destabilization. So when they keep pushing each other apart, you end up finding out that one electron has to sit on one orbital and the other electron has to sit on the second orbital. It is only when you filled all three of the orbitals, then you can now pair each one of the orbitals up. But we don't need to do that in this case because we've just got 6 electrons to work with and we've done the work. So the next thing now we have here is to make sure that we write everything we need to write out. We've got 1s2, we've got 2s2, and we've got 2p2. So the electron configuration of carbon is going to be 1s2, 2s2, and 2p2. And the way you can make sure that you have the correct answer is for you to make sure that you follow the order from the lowest energy orbital to the highest, or from the lowest energy orbital to whenever we use up the electrons, and for you to make sure that we filled in the correct number of electrons and we used up all the electrons. And when you've determined that the order and the number of electrons has been used up, then you know you have the correct answer. I wish you guys all the very best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.